South Carolina is once again at the center of America's abortion debate, drawing national attention as the state's lawmakers take a bold and controversial step that could reshape the legal landscape for reproductive rights across the country. This time, legislators have introduced the Prenatal Equal Protection Act, a sweeping bill that would classify abortion as murder from the very moment of conception, fundamentally altering how the law views pregnancy and personhood. Unlike previous abortion restrictions, this proposal doesn't just limit access or impose new requirements, it represents a radical redefinition of legal rights, granting a fertilized egg the same status and protections as any living person under South Carolina's homicide laws. The implications are staggering. If enacted, the law would not only criminalize abortion but also open the door to prosecuting anyone involved, patients, doctors, nurses, and even those who provide support or information, as if they had committed murder. The bill marks a dramatic escalation in the post-Roe era, aiming to eliminate abortion entirely by prosecuting it as a capital crime, with penalties as severe as life imprisonment or even the death penalty. The threat of such harsh punishment would fundamentally change the way abortion is viewed and handled in South Carolina, turning what has long been a deeply personal and medical decision into a matter for the criminal justice system. The bill's hearing in committee is more than just a formality, it signals a serious legislative push, with supporters and opponents alike packing the chambers, voicing passionate arguments about the future of reproductive rights and the definition of life itself. For many, this is a direct confrontation with the core question that has divided the nation for decades. Is a fetus a person under the law, and should abortion be prosecuted as homicide? The debate is no longer theoretical, it's playing out in real time, with real consequences. South Carolina's approach is more severe than any previous state law, transforming a private medical decision into a potential criminal investigation, and raising fears about surveillance, prosecution, and the erosion of doctor-patient confidentiality. The nation is watching closely as lawmakers prepare to debate a bill that could set a precedent far beyond state lines. The outcome here may influence similar efforts in other states and could ultimately shape the future of abortion rights in America. The Prenatal Equal Protection Act is a controversial piece of legislation that proposes a dramatic shift in how the law treats pregnancy and abortion. At its core, the bill argues that legal rights and protections should begin at the moment of fertilization, not at birth or viability, as in many other legal frameworks. This means that, from the very start of pregnancy, an embryo or fetus would be granted the same legal status as a born person under South Carolina law. The bill seeks to extend existing homicide laws to cover all stages of pregnancy, effectively redefining abortion as a form of homicide. This would apply not only to later-term procedures, but to any intentional act that ends a pregnancy, regardless of the stage. Under this proposal, anyone who intentionally ends a pregnancy, whether it's the patient herself, a doctor performing the procedure, or even someone who helps in any way, could be prosecuted for murder. This includes friends, family members, or anyone who provides support or resources. The bill is especially strict in that it allows for no exceptions in cases of rape or incest. All abortions, regardless of the circumstances, would be classified as unlawful killings under this law. The penalties outlined in the bill are among the harshest in the nation, ranging from 30 years to life in prison, and even including the possibility of the death penalty for those convicted. Unlike previous abortion laws, which often shielded pregnant women from prosecution, this bill removes any such protection. Pregnant women themselves could face criminal charges, making them directly liable for seeking or obtaining an abortion. Supporters of the bill refer to this approach as equal protection, arguing that the law should not discriminate based on age, stage of development, or whether a person is born or unborn. They believe this is a logical extension of existing homicide laws. In contrast, most other states with strict abortion laws focus penalties on providers, not patients. This bill marks a fundamental departure from that approach, making South Carolina an outlier in the national landscape. By reclassifying abortion as a violent crime, the Prenatal Equal Protection Act would set a new and controversial legal precedent in American history, raising profound questions about the future of reproductive rights and criminal law. Supporters of the bill present it as both a moral imperative and a constitutional necessity, believing that the state has a fundamental duty to protect the most vulnerable members of society. They argue that the question of when life begins is not just a matter of personal belief, but a foundational issue for the law itself. For these advocates, if life truly begins at conception, then the law must reflect that reality by offering equal protection to unborn children, just as it does for all other citizens. They see this as a logical extension of the principles enshrined in the Constitution. Senator Lee Bright, one of the bill's most vocal sponsors, declared, "These children deserve equal protection." He and others emphasize that the bill is about recognizing the inherent value and dignity of every human life, regardless of age or stage of development. For supporters, anything less than classifying abortion as murder amounts to legal discrimination against the unborn, creating a double standard that they find morally unacceptable. They believe that society cannot claim to value justice or equality while allowing exceptions for the most defenseless. Many see previous incremental laws, such as those restricting abortion after a certain number of weeks, as both morally inconsistent and politically ineffective. They argue that such compromises send mixed messages about the value of unborn life and fail to address the core issue. Representative Rob Harris, another prominent supporter, has openly criticized the state's heartbeat law for allowing exceptions. He calls it a compromise that ultimately fails to protect life, insisting that only a total ban can fulfill the government's responsibility. Supporters believe that the government's most basic duty is to protect all citizens, especially those who cannot speak for themselves. For them, the unborn are the most voiceless and vulnerable, deserving of the same legal protections as anyone else. Including criminal penalties for women who seek abortions is, in their view, a necessary step for achieving true equality under the law. They argue that without such measures the law would continue to treat unborn children as less worthy of protection. Supporters stress that the bill is not about punishment, but about recognizing what they see as a moral and scientific truth, that life begins at conception, and that every life deserves protection, regardless of circumstance. For those who back the bill, this legislation represents the fulfillment of a long-standing promise to protect every life from its very beginning, and to ensure that the law upholds the values of equality, justice, and human dignity for all. Critics warn the bill is cruel, unconstitutional, and unworkable. Criminalizing pregnant individuals could create a public health crisis, driving people away from medical care, even for miscarriages. Legal experts question its constitutionality, citing due process and equal protection concerns. The law could disproportionately harm marginalized women, pushing them toward unsafe abortions. Doctors may leave the state or stop practicing, creating a shortage of essential healthcare providers. Opponents argue the bill would dismantle reproductive healthcare, with devastating consequences for all South Carolinians. South Carolina's path to this bill has been a steady escalation, from heartbeat bans to now classifying abortion as murder. The 2023 heartbeat law, while restrictive, still allowed exceptions and shielded women from prosecution. Sponsors of the new bill see those exceptions as moral failures and legal loopholes. The new proposal abandons regulation for criminalization, applying homicide law to abortion. This shift moves abortion from a medical issue to a criminal act. Activists argue the incremental approach has failed, vulnerable to court challenges and compromise. The Prenatal Equal Protection Act is designed to be absolute, leaving no room for interpretation. It's a radical departure, aiming to end abortion by defining it as murder. Despite Republican majorities, the bill's passage is far from certain due to deep divisions within the party. Moderates have blocked previous anti-abortion bills, objecting to the lack of exceptions and government overreach. The new bill's criminalization of women and elimination of all exceptions intensifies these divisions. Sponsors are forcing colleagues to take a stand on fetal personhood, betting few will oppose equal protection in a primary-driven environment. This creates a high-stakes showdown between ideological purists and political pragmatists. Some fear the bill could backfire, energizing opposition and alienating voters. The debate is as much about the GOP's identity as it is about abortion rights. If passed, the law would immediately end all legal abortion services in South Carolina. Clinics would close, and anyone involved could face murder charges. People seeking abortions would be forced to travel out of state or risk unsafe, illegal procedures. Every miscarriage could become a criminal investigation, deterring people from seeking medical care. Doctors would be caught between patient care and legal risk. possibly leaving the state or refusing to treat pregnant patients. The legal system would be overwhelmed with emotionally charged cases it's not equipped to handle. The law would fundamentally alter reproductive health care, prioritizing a fertilized egg over the health and autonomy of women. National anti-abortion groups are driving the push for this bill, providing model legislation and strategic support. Their goal is to establish fetal personhood laws as a path to abolishing abortion nationwide. These groups pressure lawmakers, threatening primary challenges for those who oppose the bill. South Carolina is seen as a test case. Success here could inspire similar efforts in other conservative states. National organizations are investing heavily, hoping to defend the law in court and set a new precedent. Their involvement energizes local activists, creating a powerful feedback loop of pressure on lawmakers. The debate is not just about South Carolina, it's a key battle in a national campaign. The outcome here could shape abortion law across the country. The Prenatal Equal Protection Act has put South Carolina at a pivotal moment, forcing a reckoning on abortion's legal and moral status. The bill faces a tough path through committee and the full legislature, with deep Republican divisions on display. If it passes, lawsuits will follow, likely blocking the law while courts decide its fate. The legal battle could reach the Supreme Court, setting a national precedent. Supporters see the bill as a bold stand for life. Opponents see it as a terrifying attack on bodily autonomy. Both sides are mobilizing for a fight that will reshape the state's political landscape. The debate is a microcosm of the national struggle over freedom, life, and government power. The world is watching to see which path South Carolina will choose.